Hey, what's up, barbecue lovers? It's that time of the year again to give thanks. And today we're going to show you guys how to spatchcock, brine, and smoke a beautiful, gorgeous turkey on our Hasty Bake Legacy charcoal grill. Now, cooking turkey can be very, very easy, but it can also be tricky for those folks who don't have as much experience as some of us do. One of the worst experiences you can have is an overcooked, dried out turkey. It happens a lot. And there's a few reasons why that happens. One of them is that people stick to that pop-up thermometer, which is totally useless and worthless. That's ruined many a turkey. The other one could be too much heat, not having a really good thermopin or a good thermometer to check the temperature, and also not monitoring the temperature as the turkey cooks. Part of our process today is going to be adding moisture in our grill, spatchcocking the turkey, brining it, and then using a good quality thermometer to monitor the temperature while it cooks. We're running here at about 375 degrees right now, so let's talk turkey. All right, barbecue lovers, let's talk turkey, starting with a spatchcock. There's two ways to do it. You can use a really good, sharp, sturdy knife, or you can use shears. Me personally, I prefer the shears. And in order to spatchcock your bird, all you have to do is flip it over with the backbone up, take your shears or your knife, and just kind of follow along both sides of the backbone. Once you get it done, you want to score that breastbone, crack it a little bit, flip it over, and then press down on it to make sure it is cracked all the way and it lays nice and flat. This will help cut your cooking time in half. The other thing that the spatchcocking allows is for the bird to cook nice and even all the way across. You're not gonna have a dry breast and a juicy thigh or vice versa. It's gonna come to temp pretty much exactly at the same time all the way across, so you'll have a nice juicy bird from the drumsticks to the breast. All right, now brining is the process of immersing your turkey into water that has other ingredients like salt, sugar, in our case poultry seasoning, and a little bit of nor caldo seasoning, which adds more flavor to the brine. Now, what the brine does with the salt through osmosis carries moisture into the cells of the turkey. That allows the turkey to stay juicy and moist once it reaches temperature. Once it's cooked, even after you rest it, it's going to be very, very moist. It's very hard to cook a dry turkey when you brine. Now, our brine consists of several ingredients. I like to use Morton salt first, and it takes 2 cups of Morton salt. I use the coarser, large grain salt. I'm also going to match the salt with 2 cups of sugar. Personally, I like to use light brown sugar. It adds a very mild, little different taste to the sugar, but you can use regular white sugar, white pure cane sugar. As long as it's sugar, it should be fine. Next thing I like to add is 2 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. Now, the poultry seasoning already comes with several herbs already blended together, what great chefs have found to be the best herbs that complement poultry. I like to use poultry seasoning in my turkey. It adds all that flavor that we're also used to tasting at the Thanksgiving table. Now, the last thing I use in my brine is 2 tablespoons of nor caldo de pollo, and that adds a lot of great flavor. It also comes with some herbs as well that also enhance the flavor of the turkey and just make it extra succulent, extra juicy. Has a little bit of salt in there as well, so we're adding a little more salt to our brine by adding the caldo de nor. Now, the last thing that I use, and then I want to point out to you folks, is I use Ozarka distilled water. Distilled water has no chemicals, no additives, no chlorine, all the stuff that comes in the tap water. Pure distilled water will not change the flavor of your brine. It will not have a chemical reaction with the salt or any of the other ingredients that are in your brine, so you'll just have nice pure water. Now, once I have all my ingredients together, I'll mix them together in a cup, pour them into a container, and I will add up to 2 gallons of water total. It's going to make a total of 2 gallons altogether. All right, now the last thing is there's a couple different ways you can brine your turkey. Now, for today's example, what I did, I used the extra large Ziploc bags. This one we went old school. We put it in a nice chest, put the turkey in the bag, and then poured the brine in the bag, zipped it up really nice and tight, double, triple checked that the seal is tight. Then we added a bunch of ice and a little bit of water that was already in the bottom of the ice chest. Now, that's the old school way. I do that sometimes because I normally cook 3, 4, 5 turkeys at a time, have a couple of really big ice chests. That worked great for me. But for one turkey, we use 2 gallons of water, 1 big bag in the ice chest. Now, there's also these really cool brine buckets of all sizes, shapes, and colors. You can find them online. In the description below, you'll find a link where you can order one of those. If you're gonna cook turkey more often, nothing wrong with having a brine bucket around to make the job a little bit easier. I personally like the bags and the ice chest method because when I'm done, I pull the turkey out, throw the bag away, dump the brine out down the drain, and I don't have anything to wash or clean up. Dump the ice and water out of the ice chest, we're done. Pretty simple, pretty easy, works great. Now I will tell you guys that for the amount of salt and sugar mixture that I have in the 2-gallon brines, you want to brine your turkey for anywhere from 14 to 20 hours. I would not probably go too much more than 20 hours because of the amount of salt in there. You don't want it to be too salty. All you want to do is for that salt to penetrate and through osmosis get into the turkey, bring the moisture in there and enhance the flavor and enhance the moisture. All right, now when I get it out of the brine, I'm gonna rinse it really, really well with some water in the sink. I wanna make sure I get all that extra stuff from the brine off of it, both on the top and the bottom. So rinse it really good, pat dry it with some paper towels, set it on your tray, and then I'm gonna go ahead and season the top, the skin part, with a little bit of kosher salt. And I'm gonna lay that on there just nice and even, not a whole bunch, just a little bit of salt. That will help continue to dry out the skin and enhance the crispiness of the skin and add some real pretty color as well. Today we're going to be running Bird Booster. It's one of my favorite poultry rubs. It's one of my competition rubs that I use on my chickens. And we're also going to be running Juicy Pig, which is also another one of my favorite rubs for both pork and chicken. So 2 great flavors that are going to really make my turkey pop and taste wonderful today. All right, now what I do, after the salt sits there for a while, I'm going to come in and rub it really good with some extra virgin olive oil. The oil does a couple of things. It helps the rub stay stuck really well to the turkey, and it also enhances the color. The oil brings a little shine and a little bit of beautiful crispy color to the turkey. So one of the first things I do is lay the oil on there, cover it lightly with some Bird Booster, which has some herbs that are really poultry friendly. That's one of the reasons I like it. And then I rub that Bird Booster in a couple of times, really nice. And then I'm gonna come back a little bit later, about 5 minutes, and I'm gonna lay some Juicy Pig on there. Now the Juicy Pig has a little more garlic and a little bit of sugar in there, which really I think enhances and kicks that turkey up another notch in flavor. So I'm gonna rub that in really, really good too, let it sit a while. I like to have my rub on there a good 20 to 30 minutes before I actually put it on the grill. That gives it time to really flavor and hopefully help crisp up that skin and make it look pretty. All right, friends, we finished seasoning up the turkey. Now let's move on to the cooking process. First thing I did, clean out my Hasty Bake charcoal grill, threw in some Hasty Bake lump charcoal, which is basically hickory and oak, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of pecan in there. I added some pecan. There's a story behind that. When I was a young man and fairly newly married, my sister-in-law and her husband lived in Independence, Missouri. We flew up there to visit him one year around Thanksgiving, and he was smoking some turkeys. He was using pecan shells. I had never in my life eaten a smoked turkey. That turkey just totally knocked my socks off, blew me away, how incredibly good it tasted, smoked with pecan shells. So ever since then, that's always been my absolute favorite wood for turkey. It stuck with me in my brain, in my head, and I just love pecan with turkey. Now, of course, you can use cherry, you can use hickory, you can use apple, any kind of fruit wood you like or whatever you prefer, but that's my personal preference. I like pecan. Now, I'm using the Hasty Bake lump charcoal. I really like it a lot. It's hickory and oak, but the thing about lump charcoal in general is that it doesn't ash up. It leaves almost 0 ashes on the bottom of the grill. So it's very, very minimal ashes. It doesn't get on your food. It doesn't have any fillers or additives or chemicals. It's just pure, real wood that's been burned down to a certain point and then shut off, and so it becomes lump charcoal. But it's actually really real wood. So besides that it's very, very little ash, it also adds an excellent flavor to your barbecue. Most of the times when you see videos or you read about turkey recipes in a recipe book, they talk about starting at 450 degrees or 475 or 425. That's all great in an oven. An oven is a very moist environment because there's no airflow going through there. Now in a barbecue pit environment, in a grill environment, there's a lot of airflow. That airflow is going to want to try to dry your bird out. So You want to start hot to kind of crisp up the skin and give it that real pretty color. Let the temperature come down slow. I like for my fire to settle in somewhere around 350 degrees to 375. That's kind of where I like to cook my turkey. That little bit lower heat kind of keeps the skin from splitting and blowing up. It also keeps the bird a little bit more moist and a little bit juicier over a little bit longer cook. Barbecue cooking and smoking is not a cookie cutter operation like an oven. So you kind of got to eyeball your operation, your process, and your progress as you're cooking. If you're noticing one side's getting a little more color than the other, or you can see the skin really hot, trying to bubble a little bit, you know, just kind of time it. I've got my timer set for about 15-20 minutes, and then I'll go look at it. And if it looks like it's burning or getting a little too hot on one side, I'm going to rotate that bird completely around 180 degrees. And that way you get nice, even color and nice, even cooking all the way around. I came in a little while ago and I put a rack under my turkey because, you know, it just makes it easier to rotate, pick the whole turkey up like that with my gloves. And also when it's time to pull it off, if it's perfectly done, sometimes the thighs may want to just fall off and the wings may just want to fall off as you're trying to juggle it out of there. When you've got it on a rack, pick the rack up from the bottom, lay it on your resting tray, makes it much, much easier to get it out of the pit and let it rest for a little while. Poultry in general, and turkey as well, is basically done at 160 degrees internal temperature, right about the middle of the breast. It's kind of the generally accepted rule of thumb. Now, you'll see a lot of us pulling the turkey out at about 155 to 56, 57 degrees, because when you pull it off the grill, the heat continues to carry through into the meat. It's what you call carryover cooking. When you pull that turkey out to rest, it's gonna continue to cook a little bit longer. We're gonna put our meat probes into the meat right about now. It's been in the pit for about an hour and 15 minutes. So we're fixing to insert our chef alarm thermometers and figure out where we're at. But you'll see when we pull it off, the temperature is gonna continue to rise. So it's gonna finish out right at about 160 to 62 degrees after it's resting on the tray. All right, friends, we have our chef alarms inserted into the breast and the thigh, the biggest part of the thigh. I've got my trusty thermopin to double check as we get closer on temperature. When my chef alarms ring that we're very close, I'm gonna double check on the other side of the turkey, make sure we have nice, even temperature. You can see how we're running. You can see that moisture boiling down there. That's that distilled water. It's catching all the turkey drippings as well. That's an awesome little piece of au jus that you can use to make some turkey gravy. It's gonna be really great today. You can see we've had the turkey on for approximately an hour and 20 minutes or so. Has beautiful color, it's nice and even. It looks gorgeous, just looking really, really pretty today. We're sitting at about 129 in the breast right now and about 137 in the thigh. And remember, we started it rotated the other way first. That's one of the reasons the thigh is hotter. Remember I was saying that the rotating process, you got to use a little bit of your common sense. And I could see that the drumsticks were burning a little bit quick. So I turned it all the way around. I put it under a rack to make it easier to rotate. And by the time it's done, you'll see that the breast is going to catch up with the thigh temperature-wise. That's one of the beauties of having a spatchcock turkey. Nice, even cooking. I did wrap the drumsticks with a little bit of foil to protect them so that they don't blow up and burn up or anything like that. I could see that the wings were catching a little bit too much heat. You can kind of see there where it was starting to fall apart there, starting to boil a little too much. So we're gonna cover them up and keep them looking pretty while they get done. All right, friends, we've got a nice hot fire still going there. You can see the water sizzling and boiling. That'll probably make us some nice little gravy there. I'm gonna try to slow the heat down just a little bit for the second half of the cook. So I'm gonna lower that grate. One of the beauties of the Hasty Bake, it's very adjustable, very user-friendly. So we're gonna lower that down. I'll probably put one more little piece of pecan in there to add that last little blast of smoke. And we're gonna slow the air down a little bit also. I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit. Try to finish at around 300 degrees finishing temperature. We've been running right around 350, 375. I'm gonna try to finish it off around 300 or so, more or less, so that turkey finishes nice and juicy. And like I said, cooking a turkey is really pretty easy. If you just apply a little bit of time, a little patience, and a little bit of technique, you'll have a wonderful turkey. Don't be afraid to experiment, and don't be afraid to run a test before the actual turkey day, so you can be sure to put out a really great, fantastic turkey for your holiday meal. Okay. All right, friends, that's our chef alarm. We hit 157. We're gonna turn these off. and we're gonna pull out this beautiful turkey. We're gonna go rest it inside on the kitchen counter and let it rest for about 35 or 40 minutes. Remember to keep the smoke light and make it work.